with young onset Parkinson's disease. Here to talk about that and a virtual event that they're hosting for those living with the disease is Dr. Miriam Sklerov. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So what exactly is young onset Parkinson's disease?
Yeah, that's a good question. So as most people have probably heard of Parkinson's disease, it does typically affect people later in life. It's a neurodegenerative condition. For most people, the symptoms will start in their 60s, but for a smaller percentage of people, we do see symptoms starting before the age of 50. And for those people whose symptoms begin before the age of 50, we call that young onset Parkinson's disease. This will affect about 5 to 10% of people who develop Parkinson's disease.
My goodness, that is such a large number. So tell me a little bit about the event that you all are hosting.
So the Parkinson's Foundation is hosting an event that's called Young Onset Parkinson's Disease. You are not alone. And this will be an event that is geared towards people living with young onset Parkinson's disease as well as their family members. It's meant to be an informational session where they will hear from experts in Parkinson's disease and people living with young onset Parkinson's disease. We will go over things such as the latest research in Parkinson's disease, as well as tips for living well with Parkinson's and coping with having Parkinson's, particularly at a young age in the prime of life, which is what a lot of our patients are dealing with.
So is this for everyone, or is it solely for patients and their families?
It really is open for anyone who has a vested interest. So patients, family, as well as members from the medical community are always invited, in fact, encouraged to join to get updates, but also to really understand what their patients and what our community members are experiencing when they're living with young onset Parkinson's disease.
And where can people sign up for something like this? I'm sure the website is going to be a place to start.
Yep. So there is a website where people can register on the Parkinson Foundation website. I think it should be on your screen, but if not, it is www.parkinson.org/Carolinas YOPD. There's also a phone number for people who would rather do it that way.
That's so helpful. And really, I want to give you the last word here. It's scary to think of something like young onset Parkinson's disease. What word of advice do you have for someone who may think, okay, maybe I need to look into this?
So, interestingly, even though Parkinson's disease is quite common, because it is less common in people younger than age 50, it often takes a much longer to get the diagnosis. In fact, people often will get a large number of different diagnoses before it is discovered that they actually have Parkinson's disease, because it's not expected to be seen in people younger than 50 unless they're seeing a specialist. The advice I would give people is make sure that if you're having symptoms that may look like Parkinson's, particularly slowness of movement, tremors, and a lot of stiffness, then you should try your best to see someone who specializes in Parkinson's disease and get to a neurologist sooner rather than later.
Thank you so much for being on and certainly creating awareness for us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a very important issue for us, so I appreciate taking the time to do this.
Of course. Ken?
Makai, we want to turn our